In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. So begins one of the greatest tales ever told. But before the hobbits, before the elves, before the grand and sweeping legend of Middle-earth, there was a boy, one who wandered through childhood's golden fields and forged the words that would shape a world. His name was John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. And today, we step beyond the pages of his books to uncover the man himself, the dreamer, the scholar, the soldier, and the storyteller. J.R.R. Tolkien is a name that echoes through the annals of literature, a master craftsman of words who not only wrote stories, but built worlds. His works have inspired generations of authors, shaped the very bones of modern fantasy, and influenced games like Dungeons and Dragons. But how did this quiet professor, with ink-stained fingers and a mind filled with forgotten myths, come to write The Lord of the Rings? How did the whispers of ancient tongues and the echoes of war forge his imagination? Join me now, dear viewer, as we embark on a journey, not through Middle-earth, but through the very life of the man who dreamed it into being. Chapter 1. A Child of Myth and Memory. It is said that childhood shapes the heart of the storyteller, and in Tolkien's case, it was no different. Born on the 3rd of January, 1892, in Bloemfontein, South Africa, the boy who would later breathe life into the rolling hills of the Shire was first cradled beneath the relentless African sun. Yet fate wove its own tale, and tragedy cast its long shadow. His father passed when he was but a child, and his mother, Mabel, sought refuge in the quiet countryside of England, in the quaint village of Sarahole. Here, amid the mill and the meadows, young Ronald, as he was called, found enchantment. The creaking of old trees, the murmur of brooks, these were the first whispers of a world that would one day become Middle-earth. But childhood joys were fleeting. At the tender age of 12, Tolkien lost his mother, leaving him orphaned and in the care of Father Francis Xavier Morgan, a guardian who nurtured both his spirit and his love for language. And oh, what a love it was! The young Ronald devoured languages with the appetite of a dragon hoarding gold: Latin, Greek, Old Norse, Gothic, Finnish, each a new door to the past, each a thread in the tapestry he would one day weave. He spent his youth absorbing the myths and legends of ancient cultures, crafting his own secret languages, and studying philology, the very roots of words themselves. This passion for language would become the foundation upon which he built his great works. Chapter 2. The War That Shaped the Words. As the world teetered on the brink of the Great War, Tolkien, like so many young men, was drawn into the storm. Enlisting in 1915, he found himself thrust into the grim, unrelenting trenches of the Somme. Here, amid the mud and the death, he saw horrors that would haunt his writing forever. The blasted landscapes, the comrades lost, the looming, inescapable darkness, these would later echo in the shadow of Mordor, in the burden of Frodo, in the steadfast loyalty of Samwise Gamgee, a character drawn from the simple, valiant soldiers Tolkien fought alongside. But war did not claim him as it had so many others. Illness took him from the front lines, sending him home to Edith, the love of his life, his Luthien. And as he recovered, his mind turned to writing. There was something deep within him, something waiting to be written. During this time, he began to shape the early myths of Middle-earth. The Book of Lost Tales emerged, the first attempt to weave a grand mythology. It was here that the seeds of the Silmarillion were sown, chronicling the rise and fall of powerful beings, the forging of the world, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Chapter 3. The Creation of a World. Professor, philologist, and myth-maker, Tolkien's years at Oxford were spent in the company of words, but not just any words. He sought the echoes of ancient tongues, the remnants of forgotten mythologies, and with them he built something new. He did not simply write fantasy, he created a mythology whole and complete, with languages, histories, and legends. It began with The Hobbit, a simple tale for children, yet even in its pages there were whispers of something grander. And then The Lord of the Rings, a story that grew beyond even Tolkien's reckoning, a work that consumed over a decade of his life, a story that, as he said, grew in the telling. Chapter 4. The Scholar and the Inklings. Beyond his own writings, Tolkien found companionship among other literary greats. He was a key member of the Inklings, a group of Oxford writers who met in a cozy pub to discuss storytelling, faith, and myth. Among them was C.S. Lewis, a dear friend and fellow creator of fantasy. Their debates, encouragement, and friendly rivalry shaped some of the greatest stories ever told. But Tolkien was not always pleased with adaptations of fantasy. He criticized many, including Lewis' Chronicles of Narnia, for being too allegorical. Chapter 5. The Legacy Left Behind. By the time of his passing in 1973, Tolkien had left behind more than mere books. He had left behind an entire legendarium, a world so rich, so detailed, that even today scholars pore over his notes, his drafts, his letters, seeking more. His influence is woven into every modern fantasy novel, every Dungeons & Dragons campaign, every film and adaptation that dares to dream of elves and wizards and great perilous quests. But above all, he left behind a truth, a lesson whispered through the ages, that even the smallest person can change the course of the future. And so, dear traveler, we come to the end of this tale. But the journey does not end here. If Tolkien's life and works inspire you as they have inspired generations before, then let us keep his legacy alive. Like this video, if you too have wandered the roads of Middle-earth, share your thoughts in the comments. What is your favorite Tolkien tale? And if you seek more tales of fantasy, myth, and wonder, then subscribe. For there is always another adventure waiting just beyond the next page. For now, let us close this chapter, but remember, the road goes ever on and on.